Hare Krishna, everyone. I welcome all of you for today's session, the chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita. We will start with prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shriyuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunadhanvitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तु ते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय श्री श्री राधा मदन मोहन की जय श्री श्री गौरनिताई की जय श्री 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 जगन्नाथ बलराम सुभद्रा मैया की जय जगत गुरु पतित पावन श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's session. Anybody would like to recap yesterday's session on chapter 5?
హరే కృష్ణ మాతాజీ నిన్న ఎంతసేపటికి లింక్ రాలేదు మాతాజీ నిన్న ఎందుకో గాని
సారీ మాతాజీ ఎందుకు రాలేదు మరి అందరూ జాయిన్ అయ్యారు చాలా మంది
అయ్యింది మాతాజీ మరి నాకు ఎంతసేపు లింక్ కలవలేదు మాతాజీ హాఫ్ అన్ అవర్ ట్రై చేస్తే కూడా లింక్ రాలేదు మాతాజీ
అలా రానప్పుడు పర్సనల్ మెసేజ్ పెట్టండి మాతాజీ సో దట్ వీ కెన్ ఫిగర్ అవుట్
హరే కృష్ణ
Thank you, Mataji. Anybody would like to recap yesterday's session, 5th chapter? Do you remember the acronym that we have discussed?
Mataji, I can try.
Yeah, please go ahead, Mataji.
So chapter 5 talks about Karma Yoga. The acronym is STEP. S is for stay in the world, that is do work in devotion. We should not renounce work, but we should do our work with devotion in the service of Krishna. This is what will purify the heart, and it is a joyful process that will engage the senses. And it is the path to attain the Supreme. We also talked about how work becomes yoga, that is the connection, our connection with God. We should keep, which will help us keep our mind and senses under control, and we should act without any attachment and no desire for the results. What will be the effect of such work is that since the performer is unaffected by sinful actions, he is very equanimous, and hence he becomes dear to everyone, and everyone also becomes dear to him. This way, we will attain peace because there is no anxiety about what the result is going to be. Then the second is T, which is 3 doers. So when we do the work, it is actually three doers are involved. One is the soul, that is the jiva, which desires, and there is the super soul, who is Krishna, and who is in all of our hearts. So if based on our desires and based on the karma credit, either the desire is granted or not granted. If the desire is granted through a material nature, that is Prakriti, the desire, actions get performed and the desire is fulfilled. If the desire is not granted, then it leads to frustration and hopelessness. So essentially, the culprit is desire, and one needs to, there is a path of how to purify the desires. It is not by suppression, but by substituting. That is engaging in divine activities or doing all work in the for the final divine activity. The next is E, which is equal vision. So equal vision has two aspects. So equal vision is basically comes from true knowledge, saying that all are equal. But this has two aspects. One is equal vision for oneself and equal vision for others. So equal vision for oneself is essentially we have to be equanimous both in joy and sorrow, be naturally tolerant, and have genuine kindness both towards ourselves and outside. This will lead to peaceful existence, and also equal to others. There is a true sense of brotherhood and perceive everyone because everyone is a part of Krishna himself. The final is P, which is the peace formula, and this is the formula. Basically, performance of everything with the full consciousness that it is in the service of Krishna will ultimately lead to peace from all the material sufferings.
Hari Bol Mataji. Very excellently recapped. Thank you so much. As Mataji mentioned, it's a step path. Stay in the world. There are three doers, and see all equally, equal vision, and the peace formula. Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. So these are the three peace formulas that we have seen yesterday. So let us talk about the 6th chapter now, Dhyana Yoga. Chandana Mataji, please bring up the PPT. So Dhyana Yoga is nothing but what is Dhyana? Dhyana is meditation, right? So Krishna is talking about the yoga of meditation. So now that Krishna is talking about Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. So far we have seen only 3 yogas. This is a new yoga that we haven't talked about, which is Dhyana Yoga. So Krishna is bringing all of these yogas. For example, if you have to, you move to a new place, and if you have to go to office for the first time from the new place, so you will identify what are the ways. There may be different routes that takes you to your office, but you will identify what is the best way, right? So that the same way Krishna is saying, through karma yoga you can attain supreme, you through jnana yoga you can attain supreme, and through dhyana yoga you can attain supreme, but through bhakti yoga also you can attain supreme. But he says ultimately bhakti yoga is the easiest and safest path, or the perfect path for anybody to go through in the age of Kali, especially. And he glorifies Bhakti Yoga in Bhagavad Gita, but he is also giving all the paths for us. So these are the paths to reach Krishna, and but all of them are difficult, especially in the age of Kali. Only Bhakti Yoga, but for all of us to learn what are these paths, then we will be able to identify which path is easier, right? For example, if you go to a supermarket and you want to buy a product, and you will see there are several companies offering that product, you will see what is best for you, right? So the same way he's also giving all this knowledge to make us understand what is the best path. So to make this chapter easier and to understand, let's go to the next slide, Chandana Mataji. So to make this chapter easier to understand and remember, we have a beautiful acronym, same as previous chapters. The acronym name itself is easy. So let's go through what each letter represents. E stands for enemy or friend. Krishna talks about this enemy or friend from first shloka until ninth shloka. So Krishna explains how our mind can be our best friend or our worst enemy. Yesterday we discussed, right? The control mind is our friend and uncontrolled mind is our enemy. So a self-controlled person elevates himself by the mind, whereas a neglected mind can drag us down. So the first qualification for a yogi is controlling his mind. This emphasizes personal discipline, detachment from the results, and the importance of self purification. So, these are closely linked to the Karma Yoga that we have discussed yesterday, but we will also discuss what more are there in this chapter. And A stands for Ashtanga Yoga. And Krishna, this is the main subject matter of this chapter, Ashtanga Yoga. He talks about this topic from 10th shloka until 36th shloka. So this is the core of the chapter, and Krishna describes the ancient system of Ashtanga Yoga, controlling body, breath, and mind to fix the consciousness on Paramatma. However, Krishna also makes it clear that in Kali Yuga, this practice is very difficult due to our disturbed minds and environment. So that's why he gradually us leads us towards Bhakti Yoga. But that is the ultimate message that he gives in this chapter also. And S stands for success and failure. Krishna talks about this from 37th shloka to 45th shloka. What happens if a yogi fails? What happens if a yogi succeeds? So that's what Krishna talks about in this. And Krishna encourages us there is no loss. Any spiritual practice, spiritual effort that you put in, that will not be wasted. For example, if a scientist has done several experiments and he is doing an important experiment and he left the body in between or towards the end of it, and it's only 10% remaining and he left the body and he took another birth, do you think he will start that 10, he will complete that 10% in the new body? No, right? So that is not possible for material activities. But Krishna says here, any spiritual activity, spiritual effort that you put in this life, you will resume where you left off in the previous life in the next life. So you have done some spiritual practice in this life, so you don't need to start from ABCD again. So you'll resume from where you left off. That's the importance of material versus spiritual activities. And Y stands for yogi. Krishna talks about who is the perfect yogi in 46th and 47th shlokas. So out of all the yogis, karma yogi, jnana yogi, bhakti yogi, and ashtanga yogi, who is the best yogi? Krishna says of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. So he glorifies bhakti yoga. That is the connection between 6th chapter and 7th chapter. So at the end of this chapter, Krishna glorifies bhakti yoga, and he's going to start bhakti yoga from chapter 7 to chapter 12. So that is the main essence that we need to take. 7th to 12th, Krishna is glorifying Bhakti Yoga, and he talks about what is Bhakti Yoga, and there are so many details he will be revealing. So stay tuned for 7th to 12th shlokas, 12th chapters. That those are very important subject matters for Bhagavad Gita. So by remembering easy, we remember that this chapter simplifies the complex yoga paths and brings us to the ultimate conclusion. Bhakti Yoga is the highest yoga. That is the conclusion that he gives in this chapter. And in this slide, Krishna is talking about who is our greatest friend and the worst enemy. So now Krishna explains the importance of mind control here, because Krishna says that our mind can be either our best friend or our worst enemy. And let's take a look at this 6.6th verse. Um, Bandhuratmanat बन्धुरात्मात्मनस्तस्य येनात्मैवात्मना जितः अनात्मनस्तु शत्रुत्वे वर्तेत वर्तेतात्मैव शत्रुवत्. Anybody wants to read the translation?
Yes, Mataji. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank,
Hare
thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Yeah, so Krishna is clearly mentioning who has conquered the mind, then mind will be the best of his friends. But for one who has failed to do so, the mind will remain the greatest enemy. So such a profound statement Krishna made here. Srila Prabhupada also emphasizes that mind is like a wild child. If we don't train it with Krishna consciousness, it drags us into illusion. So Krishna Prabhupada also clearly mentions. So we need to ask ourselves, is my mind helping me remember going in a spiritual path? Or is it distracting me with worldly thoughts? That we need to think about. And Krishna also says who is a true renunciate and yogi, not someone who just gives up the work, but one who performs his duties without any attachment, that we discussed already. And he also talks about balance is the key. So neither indulgence nor suppression. You don't need to suppress your mind, and you should not be indulging more in the sense gratification. But Krishna says, keep Krishna in the center and regulate your mind. And the real battle is not external. The battle is not with others usually. The battle is within ourselves and with the mind. But with our uncontrolled mind, the battle continues. But if you control your mind, then you will be the winner of the battle. So if you take a look at the image on the slide, it beautifully shows a split face representing the dual role of the mind. The control mind versus uncontrolled mind. The control mind, the first half, it is so peaceful, and you see that expression is very friendly. And uncontrolled mind is aggressive, and expression is destructive. If you look at it, right, the red portion of it. So Krishna encourages us: don't be scared of your mind. Train it with devotion. Make it your best friend by taking it to devotion. So we need to have the determination and choose to make our mind our best friend by aligning it with Krishna. So that's the essence of this slide. So we'll move on to the next slide. So when our mind is our is our friend, what happens? What are the symptoms when the mind is our friend? So the first symptom is it follows direction. So when the mind is a friend, it listens to the intelligence. It doesn't act in its own way. This means we can direct it towards doing right things and go in the spiritual path. A controlled mind usually cooperates with us. So there is no battle within ourselves. And the second symptom is
Hare Krishna.
సౌండ్ రావడం లేదు మాతాజీ.
I think we lost. I think is it okay now?
Yeah,
Now
Mataji,
okay.
okay.
Now okay, Mataji.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Sorry about the disconnect. So we are talking about the third symptom, right? Detached from sense gratification. So when mind is controlled, it is not agitated by sense urges.
Second one, Mataji. Mataji, sorry. Follows direction, you explained. The second one, at that
Oh, you
point you got
lost.
stuck. Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah. So
So,
the second symptom is progressive and healthy choices. The friendly mind guides us towards decisions that uplift us. For example, we have all healthy habits like waking up early, and choosing prasadam or healthy food over junk food, and we will be having good association. We will leave the bad association, and we speak all truths, etc. Right? So that is something we will be taking all healthy choices. It helps us grow in mode of goodness. And the third symptom is detached from sense gratification. So when the mind is controlled, it is not agitated by sense urges. It understands all the sense urges that we have are temporary pleasures that lead to long term sufferings. So it understands that because you have trained your mind in such a way, it chooses spiritual path over sense gratification. So it becomes peaceful and joyful with that. And these are the symptoms: following directions, and progressive and healthy, making progressive and healthy choices, and detachment from sense gratification. What is the result? The result is freedom and elevation. So ultimately, a friendly mind frees us from anxiety, stress, and doing all bad things, right? It elevates us towards self realization, allowing us to work towards the purpose of life. So it understands the purpose of life, and it leads us making choices in order to achieve the purpose of life. So you can see the image here, right? Two cute animals looking peaceful and content because they're friendly with each other. So if your mind is also your friend, then the mind is aligned with the spiritual path that we need to go. So let's move on to the next slide. So when our mind becomes our enemy, what happens? What are the symptoms we will see? Chandana Mataji, can you move to this next slide? Yeah. So when our mind is our enemy, we have seen when the mind is our best friend, what are the symptoms and what is the result. Now we will see when the mind is our enemy, if it is not controlled, then what are the symptoms? The symptoms are follow sinful desires like lust, anger, and greed, etc. So instead of listening to the intelligence, the mind drags us towards lower desires. It becomes a servant of the senses, always looking for the next hit of a pleasure. Okay, go for it, it gives more pleasure. Go for this, it gives more pleasure, etc. Right? It keeps agitating. So this is exactly how the uncontrolled mind pulls up deeper into karmic bondage. You end up doing all bad things, and you will end up having all bad karma in your account. And the next symptom is irritated, agitated, and misguided. So such an uncontrolled mind is never peaceful. It constantly creates anxiety and confusion. So if your mind is creating anxiety and confusion, then what happens? We start blaming others. So we do not know that it is the problem from our mind. Then we start blaming others and become overreactive and start talking in a loud voice, and we act on impulse, and we will also lose sight of spiritual direction, etc., right? So that is another symptom. And attached to sense gratification. So like when your mind is controlled, the sun surges will not be there, like we discussed in the previous slide. Now it is exactly the opposite. The uncontrolled mind attached to sense gratification. Rather than serving Krishna, this mind becomes obsessed with entertainment, TV, food, junk food, social media, gossiping, etc. Right? It chases things that never satisfy the soul. So now that we know that we are soul, we need to search for things what makes soul happy. But this uncontrolled mind, what does it do? It identifies with the body, and it keeps satisfying the bodily needs, but the soul is never satisfied. And what is the result of it? An entanglement and degradation. The uncontrolled mind leads us away from Krishna and deeper into illusion. So instead of progressing, we degrade. Our consciousness becomes dull, and we forget the goal of life, which is the spiritual path. We will not be taking the spiritual path if the mind is not controlled. So if you look at the image of two monkeys fighting with each other, it perfectly illustrates this. Like a restless monkey, the uncontrolled mind is mischievous, loud, and causes self-destruction. So that's what we need to learn from, and what happens when when our minds are not controlled. So Srila Prabhupada also teaches us this mind is our battlefield. If we neglect to spiritualize it through bhakti, it will defeat us. So what's the solution? We need to be taking the spiritual path and keeping Krishna in the middle when you are doing all the activities. So let's move on to the next slide. There is a beautiful picture here, the chariot of Arjuna, and it shows the art of mind control. And this image is not from the battlefield, not only from the battlefield, but it also is a powerful spiritual metaphor that illustrates how mind control works. So let's break it down. The chariot, if you look at the entire chariot is equivalent to our body. It is like a vehicle for Arjuna in the battle. Our body is the vehicle for the soul in this world to move forward in the spiritual path. So the entire chariot represents our body, and the horses, 5 horses, are like 5 senses. What are our 5 senses? Five senses.
Sight, smell, touch.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, eyes, ears, tongue,
yeah.
nose, and skin. So these are our 5 senses, gross senses. So they are naturally restless and eager to chase after objects of enjoyment. If the horses run wild without discipline, what happens? Then they take the whole chariot in the wrong direction. So the same way, if senses are not controlled, then our whole life will go in a wrong direction. So the horses are representing the senses, and the reins, the ropes that you see, the reins are represented by the mind. The mind holds the senses together, right? But the mind can either be controlled or uncontrolled, like we have seen, just like the reins that are firm or loose. If the reins are firm, the mind is under control. If the reins are loose, the mind is not controlled. So that is one of the reasons your mind should be in control, to make your senses to be in control. And who is the driver here? Krishna is the chariot driver. But for our when we take our body, soul, intelligence, mind, sense, intelligence is the driver. The driver of the chariot is our intelligence, buddhi. It must guide the mind properly by holding the reins tightly and keeping the horses under control, keeping the senses under control. But what happens if the driver is weak or fall asleep? Then the senses and mind will take over. Then they will not be under your control. You will go in a wrong direction. And the passenger is the soul. Like Arjuna is the passenger here. The soul is the passenger when we talk about this whole scenario of the art of mind control. The soul is sitting in the chariot watching everything. If the intelligence is strong and guided by Krishna consciousness, we will reach the destination safely, back home, back to Godhead. But if the intelligence is not strong, if it is weak, the mind becomes weak and the senses will take over and you will go in a wrong direction because of uncontrolled mind. And we can also think Krishna as the supreme guide. So Krishna is also the ultimate charioteer of our lives, not only for Arjuna. Just like he was acted as a charioteer for Arjuna, if we surrender to him, he guides our intelligence and helps us control the mind and also the senses. So the key message here is without spiritual training, the mind and the senses, uh, they will control us, but we will not be able to control them. But with bhakti or spiritual path, if you take, we put the intelligence in charge, align it with Krishna's instructions, and we live a peaceful and progressive life, ultimately reaching our goal of life. So that's the message here. We can understand from the entire chariot picture here. So let's move on to the next slide. It talks about the essence of Ashtanga Yoga, 6.10 to 6.36, majority of the portion in this chapter. Krishna talks about Ashtanga Yoga, elaborates on Ashtanga Yoga, or the eightfold path of yoga. Ashta means eight, Anga means limbs. So there are eight limbs in the yoga process. But before that, before we get into the deep meanings of what Ashtanga Yoga and what are the processes, etc., let's take this. Nowadays, the word yoga is often misunderstood. Let's take a look at some common misconceptions. The first one, it shows as a paranormal activity. Somebody is raising up from the bed automatically, right? It looks like a paranormal activity. Some people associate yoga with mystic powers, alleviation, mind reading, or supernatural abilities. While siddhis, the mystic perfections, can come as a byproduct of serious yoga practice. For example, if somebody is doing a serious yoga practice, they would automatically get some siddhis. For example, somebody who is at their 30s, they can show themselves as 80 years old person, or they can show themselves as 10-year-old person, etc. Right? So those are all mystic perfections, mystic powers that they get when they do perfect yoga practice. But that is not the goal of doing yoga. Srila Prabhupada also gives us a warning that these siddhis can distract a yogi from real spiritual progress. As soon as they get some siddhis, right, they start yoga to connect with the supreme, but as soon as they get the siddhis, they forget the goal. They forget the goal and they start becoming famous with the goal, with the perfections, the siddhis that they got, right? So it deviates, is what Prabhupada always tells us. So true yoga is not about powers but about connecting with the supreme. So but these mystic powers, they automatically get as a byproduct. And is it a physical exercise? In the shown in the second picture, often yoga is reduced to merely asanas, right, postures and stretches for health benefits. But as per Bhagavad Gita, this is just a small aspect of yama and niyama. Those are all preliminary stages. We will see what are those stages in the upcoming slides. Yoga is not just about physical flexibility, but about mental and spiritual discipline that we need to understand. And if you look at the third picture, is it gymnastics? We see gymnastics performing amazing feats, right? But that's not yoga. Yoga is not about showing off physical prowess or achieving worldly applause. The real yogi is humble, detached, and focused on Paramatma within the heart. So it's not gymnastic also. Is it some austerity of the body, like shown in the fourth picture? While yogis to perform tapasya, austerities, like doing some complicated asanas, their purpose is for self purification, not torturing or extreme denunciation. Krishna explains that moderation is also the key, but true yogic austerity is for the purpose of self realization, not for self denial for its own sake. So that is also not the entire yoga. Let's move on to the next slide. But what is yoga? So yoga means, we have been talking about yoga, right? What is yoga?
Union with God.
Yeah, to link the individual soul with with Krishna, with Supreme Lord. So that is yoga. And Krishna describes who is true yogi is living in seclusion, practicing self-control, free from desires and possessiveness, and meditating on the super soul with steady mind. This is what is yoga, and it also has a process we will see in the upcoming slides: yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and ultimately the samadhi stage. So we will discuss what is it. But So we will see in these pictures, right, modern views of yoga. So the first is weight loss. There are so many versions of yoga in modern day. Weight loss yoga, blood pressure management yoga, pregnancy yoga, teen relaxation yoga, business stress relief yoga, athletic performance yoga, and even yoga in chairs in the air or whatnot. There are so many versions of yoga, right? And you can do yoga while watching a screen, etc., etc. Are these bad? So these are all the modern day yoga things, but the question is, are these bad? The answer is no, not entirely. Yoga does help with physical and mental wellness. Those benefits are byproducts of yoga practice. So, but these asanas are just one part of the Ashtanga yoga. We will discuss in detail. And in fact, the ancient Yoga Shastra acknowledges the role of health and discipline. That is very important. Even if you want to spiritually progress, the role of health and discipline is very important. The real purpose of yoga is completely lost in these versions. They are focusing more on one aspect of it. In modern yoga, what is missing? Does not teach about the soul, Atma, does not aim at connecting with the Supreme Krishna, and becomes just another commodity for profit, fitness, and popularity. So the aim is lost. The true goal of yoga, as per Bhagavad Gita, means union not of the body with the body, but of soul with the Supreme Lord. The physical postures, asanas, are just one small part of the Ashtanga Yoga process. So Ashtanga Yoga process is used to steady the body, control the senses, prepare for deep meditation on the super soul, Paramatma, etc. Right? So, but the true purpose is lost. So our message is we need to understand yoga is not just exercise but a spiritual practice. Its goal is God consciousness, not the physical exercise. And the topmost yoga is Bhakti Yoga, devotional service to Krishna, which is accessible to all in this age of Kali, which is chanting it starts with chanting the holy names Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So in this slide, actual Ashtanga yoga process is described. So far, we have seen what yoga is not and how modern interpretations have often misled the actual yoga. Now let's understand what actual yoga is. The Ashtanga yoga is. This is taught in the scriptures in Bhagavad Gita as told by Krishna himself. So in this slide, we will see there are eight processes involved. The first path, if you see, is yama. This is yama. Yama is external disciplines. External disciplines is ahimsa. What are the external disciplines? Ahimsa, non-violence, and speaking truth, truthfulness, and asteya, non-stealing, should not be steal, and celibacy or restraining from sexual relationships, brahmacharya, and non-possessiveness, aparigraha. So external disciplines are ahimsa, non-violence, satya, truthfulness, asteya, non-stealing, brahmacharya, celibacy, aparigraha, non-possessiveness. So these are the external disciplines as part of yama. And what is niyama? The next part is niyama. This is called internal disciplines. This involves personal observances like shaucha, cleanliness, santosha, contentment. Whatever you have, you will be content with that. And tapas, austerity. And swadhyaya, self-study, the scriptures. And ishvara pranidhama. Pranidhana is surrendering to God. So these are the internal disciplines as part of niyama. And what is asana? The so-called yogic posture that every people call in today's world. This is only one part of the eight limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. But in true Ashtanga Yoga, asanas are just meant to keep the body healthy. Make it a steady seat for meditation. You are preparing your body for perfect meditation. And pranayama, the fourth one is pranayama, breath regulation. This controls the life air or prana. So the life air is called prana. So you're controlling that life air, which is done as part of pranayama. It calms the mind and prepares one for meditation. So why do they do pranayama? For preparing themselves for meditation. And what is pratyahara? Withdrawal of the senses is pratyahara, and controlling, regulating your senses from external distractions to be able to focus your mind on meditation. That is called pratyahara. And what is dharana? The sixth part of this eight process Ashtanga Yoga is dharana, concentration, focusing the mind on one object. This means concentrating on the form of the super soul within. So that concentration, so when you do all these five processes of the Ashtanga Yoga, the sixth processes of concentration becomes easy. And then once you have the concentration, you will do dhyana, meditation, and it is called meditative absorption, the continuous flow of thought towards the Lord. That is called meditation, deep meditation, where the mind is absorbed without any interruptions. And the next last stage is samadhi. It's complete absorption. This is the final stage where the yogi is fully absorbed in Paramatma with no distractions. And this is called the eight processes of Ashtanga Yoga. But whatever asanas that we are doing in the recent days, it is just one part of Ashtanga Yoga, which will not lead to perfection. That we need to understand. So, although this eight-step process is ancient, in Kali Yuga, it is very, very difficult to follow. And there is no one who knows all the processes who can teach us. That is one thing. Even if you have somebody who knows all these processes perfectly, and if you want to learn from them, there is no access to peaceful forests right now. So you need to go to a secluded place if you have to practice all these Ashtanga Yoga. And in Kali Yuga, we have a short lifespan, and the minds are restless, and we have constant distractions. So, with all of this, it is very, very difficult to follow this path. And Srila Prabhupada also emphasizes, Krishna also concludes, of all yogis, he who worships me with faith and devotion is the best of all. So, he says Bhakti Yoga is the best. So, the purpose of Ashtanga Yoga is not flexibility. And also not to get mystic powers, but the main purpose is full absorption in Krishna. That is the main purpose. And the shortcut given in Kali Yuga people is Bhakti Yoga, which is very easy to follow, unlike Ashtanga Yoga. So let's move on to the next slide. And Krishna, so whatever we have discussed, it's just we are seeing it in shloka wise. Krishna described about Emma in 6.10. What are the do's, positive actions that you need to follow? We can take a example of a real life scenario, like a driver following the traffic signals, stop at red, go at green. These are the moral duties, right? Like honesty, cleanliness, humility. So these are the do's which are part of Yama. And Krishna talks about Niyama in 6.17. So that are don'ts. Negative restrictions like avoiding junk food while training for a marathon is an example. And it includes avoiding bad habits, laziness, overeating, and negativity. And Krishna talks about asana from 6.11 to 14, sitting postures, which controls the body. And we can take an example: a student sits properly in class, not lying down, etc., right, while learning. And you need to be steady, sitting straight for deep practice. That is called asana. And pranayama is described in 6.19, which is nothing but controlling the breath for any, even in nowadays, right, for any stressful activities. If somebody is in stress, what do you say to them? Take a deep breath and calm yourself is what we say, right? So breathe connects body and the mind. Control breath calms emotions. So that is something we also follow in this modern age. And the 6.15, Krishna talks about pratyahara, how to withdraw the senses. For example, there is an exam for any student. They will turn off the mobile to focus more on the study. In order, otherwise he keeps getting messages and calls. He gets distracted. So that's what it says. Don't let your senses wander. You pull them inward. Withdrawing the senses from sense objects is what is called pratyahara. And dharana is described in 6.18 shloka, fixing the mind. For example, we need to have a laser focus in doing some things, right? For anything you wanted. So, for example, you have an exam tomorrow, you need to have a laser focus, and you also do repeatedly. A musician practicing one raga repeatedly, hundreds and thousands of times. And then only the perfection happens. The yogi fixes the mind without wavering. So that is called dharana, fixing the mind. And dhyana is described in 6.19, and which talks about meditation on Vishnu. being so absorbed in a book, you forget time, right? For example, so that same way, meditation dhyana means meditation on Lord Vishnu without any distractions, and you will forget the time also. And the final stage is described in 20 to 23rd shlokas, which is called samadhi. It is also known as trance, full absorption. And yogi is fully united with the Lord in loving devotion. That is the samadhi state. But in this stage, the best yoga is Sankirtana yoga, chanting the holy names of the Lord as per Srila Prabhupada. And Krishna also mentioned, we discussed in the previous slide also, 6.47. He describes of all yogis, the one who worships me with faith and devotion is the highest of all yogis, is what Krishna says. So we'll move on to the next slide. So now can anyone do this yoga is the question now. And the answer is, according to Bhagavad Gita, no, not easily. The Ashtanga yoga can be done by anyone is the question, but not everybody can do. Let's take a reality check. What are the actual qualifications Krishna gives for practicing the Ashtanga yoga? So he says, unagitated mind. You should have an agitated mind. A yogi must have a peaceful mind, not disturbed by desires, anger, or anxiety. Imagine trying to meditate while your phone keeps buzzing. Not possible, right? Because we live in this world and we cannot be going to a secluded place where no distractions are there. So it's difficult for this age of Kali. And you should not have material desires. The next thing is, the heart must be free from desires for wealth, fame, name, sense pleasure, anything, luxuries, etc., etc. Right? So you should not have any material desires. If someone is meditating just to get six-pack abs or supernatural powers, that's not yoga. That's only marketing that we've already discussed. And the third thing is complete celibacy. Celibacy, that is, this is not practical, requires strict brahmacharya for practicing Ashtanga yoga. In today's world, how many can genuinely live like this? We need to think about it. And the fourth one is lamp in a windless place. So Krishna talks about this in 6.19. Just as a lamp does not flicker in still air, so must be the yogi's mind be steady and focused. It's like trying to focus on Krishna while switching between 10 applications in the system. So that is how we can do in nowadays. So this is also very difficult. And regulated habits. Krishna talks about this in 6.16 and 17. No overeating or no starving. No oversleeping or no insomnia. Life should be in balance. And in modern day, it's a challenging thing. Our generation is ruled by algorithms, not regulation. So it's difficult for us. So the bottom line here is, yoga is not possible for one who eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or sleeps too little. It requires a rare kind of discipline that most people today cannot follow. So it is not for everybody. But Krishna offers a gift in 6.47. Of all yogis, he who worships me with faith and devotion, the highest of all, is what he mentions. You don't need a Himalayan cave. You don't need to suppress your life. You just need to chant with sincerity, and you have to detach the results, and you have to keep Krishna in the middle of everything you do. That is easiest way, right? Than Ashtanga yoga. And Arjuna also says, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Arjuna says this in 6.33. So Arjuna is a trained warrior, very disciplined, very focused, and he felt that this kind of yoga was too hard for him. Then what about us? Because why? The mind is chanchala, it's always flickering like a monkey, and controlling it is like trying to bind the wind. So Arjuna says himself, Krishna, I can control the wind with the powers that I have. I can control the wind, but I cannot control the mind. So if Arjuna is not able to control the mind, is it easy for us?
No,
Very
Mataji.
challenging.
It's difficult, right? So
No, Mataji.
sitting alone in complete celibacy, no distractions. Is it something possible for us? It is mission impossible for most of us, right? So we need to think about how practical it is to do Ashtanga yoga. If Arjuna couldn't do it, what about us? With our smartphones, social media, and and sense pleasures, everything. It's very, very much very difficult for us. Um, so let's move on to the next slide. So, so it is about the mind, difficult to handle, 6.34. चञ्चलं हि मनः कृष्ण प्रमाति बलवदृढं तस्याहं निग्रहं मन्ये वायोरिव सुदुष्करम्. Anybody wants to read the translation? Can unmute. Sneha Mataji, please unmute yourself.
The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind.
Yeah, Arjuna himself is saying, I can control the wind, but mind is very difficult because it is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. So he has given four strong words here. So it's most, I think it is more relatable for us. So have you ever tried to sit and focus maybe for anything without mind wandering anywhere? Are you able to do it? You have to bring it back again and again, right? Just like the sleepy cat. Our mind looks peaceful but behaves wildly when we try to discipline it. So, four qualities that Arjuna has described of the mind is restless, chanchalam. That means never sits still. It is always wanders. So, you may be here in India, but your mind goes to US, UK, wherever you want, it will go there without any visa, without any vehicle. So, mind is like that, chanchalam. And turbulent, it disrupts inner peace. Mind is always turbulent, so it will not stay you peacefully. And mind is very strong. It overpowers good intentions. It always say, okay, it may be wrong for you. And why are you doing this? It is okay, not everybody is doing. Why are you doing that hard work, etc., etc. Mind keeps telling all these things, right? It's very strong. And it is also obstinate, refuses to change easily. Okay, all this while you have been doing this, why do you want to change to spiritual path? It is not it is okay not to change. You are already in 40s, you are already in 30s. All this life you have lived for 30 years. So mind will tell you not to change, even it is for good. So Krishna consciousness is about denying this, is not about denying this, but acknowledging it honestly, just like Arjuna did. Arjuna is clearly mentioning that he cannot control his mind because mind has these qualities, these four qualities that we have discussed. So trying to control the mind is like trying to catch the wind in your hands. Is it possible?
No, Mataji.
No, not possible. So now that Krishna gives the solution. So Arjuna says, I cannot control my mind. Krishna gives a solution in 6.35. Krishna says there is a method to control the mind. There are two things that he says. Can you move on to the next slide, Mataji? Yeah, I think this we have discussed. Let's move on to the next slide. So how to control your mind is through practice and detachment. So Krishna says, we the mind is has these qualities, but how to control is the what Arjuna asked. So Krishna says you don't need to worry about it. I'll give you a solution. And Krishna also not denying, okay, you can control your mind. It is not difficult. He's not saying like that. He acknowledges, yes, I agree. It is difficult to control, but here is the prescription. So the prescription here is abhyasa, practice, and vairagya, detachment. So he talks about two things here. And for example, imagine you are used to eating sweets every day. One day you decide, enough, I will stop. The craving doesn't vanish overnight, right? You think that okay, it is not healthy now that I've reached my 30s, 40s, and if I don't stop, I'll get diabetes. And you've decided not, I'll stop eating sweets. But the craving inside will not stop. Will it stop? As soon as you decide you don't want to eat sweets, your craving will stop.
No, Mataji.
No, Mataji.
No, right? So what do? You have to do this abhyasa. Abhyasa is practice. Practice, not controlling it, but you can replace sweets with fruits. So your sweet tooth will be satisfied, and you will also be not thinking about sweets always. So slowly, gradually, it will help you to get rid of that habit. And another thing is vairagya. You avoid going near sweet shops and avoid keeping sweets in your fridge or at your reach, right? So you should also practice vairagya. Vairagya is not controlling, and just like that it will not go away, right? So here for us vairagya is to avoid going to near sweet shops or keeping sweets inside. If you have sweets and if you think one day or the other you go to the fridge and you start eating, right, then what you have to do, you have to give it to some children outside who has not tasted this kind of sweets without them, maybe with financial problems and things like that. Go to orphanages and distribute, or give it to your mates, etc., etc. You can do any of those things. So abhyasa, replacing sweets with fruits. Vairagya, avoid going near sweet shops. So same with the mind. If we repeatedly train it and avoid those triggers, uh, like doing that vairagya, it starts behaving as you train. So abhyasa for in bhakti yoga is daily chanting, reading, going to a temple, visiting, taking darshan of deities, and doing regular sadhana, etc. And vairagya is avoiding distractions, unnecessary social media, gossiping, indulging into habits, etc. You slowly regulate all of this, and your mind will become your servant, not your master. So mind should always be your servant. You should not be a servant of your mind. Once you become a servant of your mind, it will take you in wrong directions. So we can't stop the mind forcefully, but like training a puppy with love and repetition, it learns to sit, stay, and obey. That is what we need to learn. So you bring it home a small puppy. What does it do? It runs everywhere, right? Chews your shoes, jumps on guests, and it never listens to you when it is. It just came to your house, and you should train it. It goes to the kitchen and chasing smells and everything, right? Just like our mind flickering, disobedient, and it gets distracted, etc. The solution Krishna has given is practice, and every day train that puppy. Sit, stand, stay, repeat. You will repeat with patience and it will learn slowly. The puppy learns. Like the same way mind also learns. Abhyasa, regular chanting and regular reading. And because you gain that knowledge, you understand what is right, what is wrong for you. So that's how you will train your mind. And detachment, for puppies, what you will do, you keep the shoes out of her reach, and you will shut the kitchen door when you're not around, etc., right? So like that, keeping the mind away from distractions in life, you will avoid gossips, and you will not waste time in social media, and you say no to the parties, late night parties and late night entertainments, etc. So all of that you will train, and you will also create that vairagya for yourself. So in bhakti yoga, it's just not suppressing the desires, but you redirect them to Krishna. So the tongue wants to speak always, then speak about Krishna, and ears wants to hear always. So instead of listening to gossips, listen to kirtans or lectures or Bhagavad-gita, Bhagavatam, etc. The eyes want to see all the beauty. So see, take the darshan of Radha and Krishna. So abhyasa, vairagya, how you can turn the wild puppy into trained helper. The same way you can train your mind to go into devotional life. So practice detachment, then the mind will become controlled. So abhyasa, you have to do that practice regularly. Every day you have to do practice. And vairagya is detachment. You will give up things that are not helpful for your progress towards your ultimate goal to achieve your life goal. So that is something we need to learn eventually. So when you start training, it's easier, but in the initial stages it may be difficult, but when you start training, it is not that difficult. So the takeaway is no sincere effort in spiritual life is ever wasted. Even if we fall short in this life, Krishna gives us another chance, but this time with better conditions and spiritual head start. But in material things, when you have done something which is at the end 90% done, the 10% you will not resume in the next life. But even when you are doing a spiritual when you are practicing spirituality, even if you fall down, you will be given another chance in the next life. So that is the beauty of it. We need to understand that. Can we move on to the next slide? Yeah, Krishna is clearly mentioning about this, what happens to those yogis who could not become successful. So he says the unsuccessful yogi. Can you go back? Yeah. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. So Krishna is saying, whoever is an unsuccessful yogi, so the Ashtanga yoga path is very unsuccessful, but still he has done so much of hard work, and maybe he did not achieve the final goal, but Krishna is giving an opportunity. Whatever pious activities that he has done in this life, he will go to heaven, he will go to upper planetary systems, and he will enjoy there. And when he comes back to earth, he will be born in a family of righteous people, so that that environment is given to that person. Or he will be born in a family of rich aristocracy, so that he gets all the facilities to get into bhakti, and he will enjoy materially as well, and also he will be given a spiritual upliftment from there. So that is what Krishna says. It is okay because yogis are in the spiritual path, and even if they are unsuccessful, they will be given an opportunity. So let's move on to the next slide. And the last shloka, Krishna says, anybody wants to read this?
Hare Krishna
Somebody can
Mataji, shall I read?
Yeah, please go
Yogi in 6.45 was who is best? A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So Krishna says a yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. So empiricist is a jnana yogi, and fruitive worker is karma yogi. So of all the yogis, Krishna says the dhyana yogi is better than these two yogis. So he says become the yogi, but he also says you become a bhakti yogi, not about, because he also explained about the yoga ladder, right? If you remember karma yoga, which is yoga of action, this is the starting point for most people. We have seen the yoga ladder also, I think yesterday or in the previous classes. A karma yogi works dutifully and offers the results to the Lord. Even it is difficult, he works as a duty. He performs his prescribed duties very well and offers the results to the Lord. For example, a person doing honest work and donating to Krishna's service, or cooking and offering food to Krishna before eating, etc. All these are path of karma yogis. And then comes Gnana Yogi, yoga of knowledge. The seeker, the yogi begins to detach from material things and tries to understand the spiritual nature of the soul. So with the knowledge, he will understand the spiritual nature of the soul, and he does that analysis through knowledge. For example, a philosopher or a spiritual student who contemplates on who am I and realizes I am not this body, I am the soul, and what is the constitutional position of the soul, what is the nature of the soul, etc. They will study. And dhyana yoga is yoga of meditation. This is the silent meditation where one attempts to fix the mind on Paramatma within the heart. Very difficult in today's age, as Krishna mentioned. And for example, a yogi sitting in Himalayas, you might have seen so many yogis, right? In Kumbh Mela, they all come together to take bath in the rivers and things like that. So yogi sitting in Himalayas, meditating in seclusion for decades and decades. There are people who are more than 100 years old also meditating there in Himalayas. And Bhakti Yoga, yoga of devotion, this is the highest and easiest yoga offered by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So it means engaging the mind, body, and soul in loving devotional service. And what is loving devotional service? Chanting, hearing Krishna Katha, worshipping, cooking for Krishna, serving devotees. So this is all bhakti. So Srila Prabhupada also explains the purpose of all yoga systems is to reach Krishna. So if you see the yoga ladder, right? So this is the yoga ladder: karma, gnana, dhyana, bhakti. And karma is in the first step of yoga ladder, and gnana, and then dhyana, and then bhakti. So even if you start karma, you have to get gnana, you have to do meditation, and then you will reach to bhakti in order to reach Krishna. So there is no direct path from karma to reach Krishna. So this is the ladder, you have to go step by step. So your karma yoga leads to gnana yoga, your gnana yoga leads to dhyana yoga, and it leads to bhakti yoga. Ultimate destination is bhakti yoga. Anybody who starts from karma yoga, they have to come to bhakti yoga. Anybody starts from jnana yoga, they have to go to bhakti yoga. Anybody starts from dhyana yoga, they also have to go to bhakti yoga. So Krishna instead says you directly go to bhakti yoga and do your spiritual practice from there. Because in Kali Yuga, the recommended process is Bhakti Yoga, because all other processes are difficult. The chanting the holy names, and reading scriptures, and doing devotional service, and going for darshans of the deities, things like that. And Srila Prabhupada also didn't just teach Bhakti, he embodied it, he practically implemented it. He gives us the shortcut to the top of the ladder through the path of hearing, chanting, and serving Krishna. So Krishna declares the topmost yogi. Can you go to the next slide? In this slide, Krishna declares the topmost yogi, and he also gives. We can also take a real life example of all yogis. He says, "One who worships me with faith and love, who constantly thinks of me and serves me, is the highest of all yogis." So Krishna is comparing all types of yogis. Some do hard asanas, poses. Some meditate. Some study scriptures. But do you know who he says is the best? He says Bhakti Yogi is the best, one who loves Krishna, chants his names, and does everything to please him with devotion. It should be with devotion, not for show off. He does not do it because he wants to become famous. He just does it because Krishna loves it. He serves Krishna with love. So his motive is to love Krishna. His motive is not to become famous or gain profits, monetary benefits, etc. So that is called Bhakti Yoga. And Krishna says he is most dear to me. So if yoga is a competition, Bhakti Yoga uh, is the best yoga. So that is a winner that we need to understand. So Srila Prabhupada left India at the age of 69. He has perfectly demonstrated Bhakti Yoga. So he is the best Bhakti yogi we can take as an example. So he left India at the age of 69, and he has no money. I think he only has 40 rupees, and he has no followers, and he has no support, just because his spiritual master told him to preach Krishna consciousness in the West. Because Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is his spiritual master, and he already thought that Indians will follow the Westerners, and by in that time he has envisioned it, and he told Prabhupada to go to West and start preaching, because Prabhupada has tried for 40 years in India, and he could not make any good progress. He had disciples, but he could not create that ISKCON kind of thing in India. So his spiritual master guided him, you go to West and start preaching. And then he took a cargo ship at the age of 69, and the cargo ship name is Jalduta. And he had suffered 2 heart attacks, and he has arrived in New York with the trunk of books and deep faith in Krishna, nothing else that he has. And he did not perform gymnastic yoga or sit silently in a cave, etc. He chanted the holy names. He cooked prasadam and distributed, and he gave lectures, and he personally served all the youth who come to him. And he planted the seed of bhakti yoga in the hearts of thousands and thousands of people there. And why was he so powerful? Because he had great faith and love for Krishna. An ordinary man who goes to US and created that kind of awareness in the spiritual life, it is done only by Srila Prabhupada, because He has great faith and love for Krishna, and he constantly thought of Krishna. So that's why Prabhupada is an example of topmost yogi, not because of physical power, but because of the spiritual love for Krishna. So the topmost yogi is not the strongest, smartest, or quietest, but the one who loves Krishna the most. That we need to understand. So I think Krishna ends this chapter with who is the topmost yogi. That is the Bhakti yogi. So he told about Dhyana yoga. He also described about what are Ashtanga processes of Dhyana yoga. And then he concluded that Bhakti yoga is the topmost of any yoga among all the yogas that he has described so far. So he starts describing in detail of Bhakti yoga from chapter 7 onwards. So let's go to the next slide. So Krishna describes about hearing and everywhere and essence, and what to accept, what to reject, and the demigods. He also describes about demigods, who are demigods and why are they there, etc. We will be discussing in the next chapter. We will, I think it is on 14th of June. So stay tuned. These are the important chapters of the Bhagavad Gita from 7th to 12th. Of course, every chapter, every verse is important. If you understand at least one single verse in detail, in depth, and you are able to meditate on it, your life is successful, is what acharyas say. But don't miss the following sessions, 7th to 12th. They're very, very important. And thank you so much for today's participation. We will recite one Hare Krishna Mahamantra and then close the session. You can
Okay.
unmute yourself and say along with me. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare. Hare Krishna Mata.